Okay, we've just finished coding a pig player class, and now we're going to actually code the game using this object-oriented programming style of coding. So the driver file is going to be on a separate file. So do file new, and we're going to call this class, I don't know, pig game, pig. What's a good name for this? Pig game. That sounds good. Alright, in our pig game is our driver is going to have our public static void main. Okay, in our pig game we will probably receive input from the keyboard. So right off the bat I'm going to import java.util.scanner. Incidentally, I never did compile the pig player class, did I? I should probably see if that works. Holy cow, this is unprecedented. It did. Hopefully yours did too. Okay, now I'm going to save this. I have to save this as pig game. Okay, when you save your driver, make sure you save it in the same file as the class that you're going to be using. That's how it knows where to look. There are some packages you can create later on to make folders, but and if you already know how to do that, feel free to create packages. But for now, we're going to keep it simple and just know that it has to be in the same file. Okay, so here we go. We're going to, what are we going to do? Let's have them enter in their name. So I need my scanner. Okay, I'm going to declare a I lost my train of thought. What were we going to do? Oh yeah, we were going to allow them to enter in their name, right? So let's tell them what game they're playing. Pig game. And we need some variables for their name. Okay, here's where we do our pig player. I'm going to say our other class is called pig player, so that's the data type I'm going to do. So I'm going to say pig player, player 1. I can't put a space in there, it has to be all run together. Player 1 equals new pig player. Okay, this does two things. It declares the object and it instantiates the object, and when it instantiates the object it calls the default constructor, and I can tell that it calls the default constructor because if you look over here there are 0 parameters. So I've created and instantiated all on one line. Okay, the default name is going to be just player, right? Just FYI. Okay, now when you do this, you can declare your variable without instantiating it. That declares it and does not instantiate it. Just declares. So I can't use player 2 until I instantiate it. Well, I wanted to do it this way. Normally if we just declare and instantiate both of them, but I want to show you how to use the overloaded constructor. So we're going to allow user 2 to enter in their name. So here I'm going to do a prompt. Well, I'll do it for both of them. Player 1, enter your name. Then I'm going to read in the name. Name equals in.next. Okay. Now that I know the name, I can set the name for player 1 because I have a setter for name. So I'm going to say player 1 dot set name, and I'm going to set it with the actual name. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing for player 2. Player 2, enter your name. Name equals in.next. Okay, now on player 2 I can't use a setter because this has not been instantiated. At this point our program should work. It's going to compile. I could run it. It would allow me to enter my name, stuff like that. But if I tried to use player2 and said player2.setName, it would crash on me because player2 doesn't actually exist yet. I still need to instantiate it. So instantiate play object. And I'm going to do that without re-declaring it because I've already declared it up at the top. Player2 equals new pig player. Now I know what their name is, so I can use this name parameter right here. Now that I know there's one string parameter, it's going to look for the constructor that has one string parameter, and it's going to set the name accordingly. So both of these now have their name set. Okay, so far so good. So all I have to do now is allow the user to play the game. So play the game, and then I want to stick that into a loop that goes until someone loses. Okay, now when I play the game, I'm gonna have the user player 1 move, and then player 2 move, and then player 1 move, player 2 move. So it's in a loop. The code is going to be the same for player 1 and player 2. So this is a good time to use a user defined method. We've already shown you how to do that in the last semester, in the last unit, so we're going to review that in this one because we don't want you forgetting. Okay, you can put the method, the user defined method, either after main or before main. It doesn't matter, but it can't be inside of main, so I can't put it anywhere in here. I can't put it after the closing. This is the closing bracket for the class, and class. This is the closing bracket for main, and main. Just so I can tell, I'm going to put my user defined method right here. Okay, my user defined method is going to take a player, and have them move as many times as they want. Okay, so in this problem reviewing, what's a good name for this method? Well, we do have to have public, and now you know why, because it has to, all the methods are public. In this particular situation, it has to be static because our static method main is going to be calling this method. So anytime a static method calls a static method, or another method, it has to be static. So public static, we're not really answering a question. It's not like we're saying calculate the GPA or something like that. So we're going to have a void return type. The name of the method, how about user move, player move? I personally like camel case instead of I like the lowercase p. If you like the uppercase p, that's okay. Okay, what information do I need in order to move? Well, I need to know which player is moving, right? Because this is going to work for both players. So I'm going to send a pig player, and I'm not going to specify which one it is. I'm going to make this work generically for both of my players so I can call the same code twice with two different objects. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, system.out.println. I want to print out the information about the player, the current player. And it might be player 1, it might be player 2. We don't know, but it doesn't matter. If I do a system.out.print statement for the object, it automatically calls the toString method for that object. So if I look over here, I've coded the toString method by returning this information. So it will tell me the person's name and their round score and 0. Obviously it's going to be 0 and 0 right now, but that's okay. So I'm displaying that information. Okay, in this particular method, I am going to have to get user input. I need to know whether they want to roll or whether they want to pass. So I'm going to use a scanner. Okay, now I have a scanner up here, but it's inside of main. So I could pass the information over, or I could just redeclare it. This is a local variable, but it's local only to this method. This is a local variable, it's local only to this method. The player we wanted to be a parameter because we're sending information from here to here, and that's why this had to be a parameter. We could do the same thing with our scanner, or you could not. Either way would work. Okay, so I've printed out the player. I've got my scanner. I want to ask the player what they want to do. And realistically, I'm going to switch these two lines places because I don't want to redeclare the scanner inside my loop, but I do want to reprint out the player each time. Okay, now I'm going to ask them a question. Do they want to roll or do they want to stay? And I'm going to have them type in R for roll or S for S-T-A-Y for stay. Okay, now I'm going to read in their choice. That means I have to have a variable for the choice. I'm going to come up here to my variable section, string choice. Why am I doing string? Well, look what they're entering in. They're entering in R or S instead of a number, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it has to be a string, or I could do a char type too. But I want to do the equals ignore case and review string copies too. Look, we're reviewing everything with this one program. I like this. Okay, this is a tough program. By the way, our program that we're doing is not going to be this tough. I just wanted to kind of get everything in review and do the new stuff all in one program. Okay, so I'm telling them roll or stay. I'm going to define my choice is equal to whatever the user typed in using my scanner in .next. Once I have that, I can see if they chose to roll. If they chose to roll, so if choice, and I can't say equals equals like we learned last time. It works about half of the time, but it doesn't work consistently. I have to use the equals ignore ignore case. I could use the just dot equals, but I want it to work if they enter in a lowercase or an uppercase letter. So equals ignore case R. If the choice is equal to an R, that means I want them to roll. Okay, keep in mind when you're doing your if statement, here's an opening squiggly bracket. Look, if you hover over these, by the way, it shows you where it closes. See how on the end here it's closing? But then this one closes this one. That's why we have to have two closing parentheses. So if they choose to roll, then I want to call my method roll. But I have to call it using my object, player. This might be player 1, this might be player 2. It doesn't matter. Either way, they've chosen to roll. So I'm going to use the dot operator and say player dot roll. And now they've rolled in the dice. Okay, let's go see what they've rolled. System.out.println. You rolled, I don't know, die value. That sounds good. The die value is going to be player. Okay, I cannot say dot die. The reason why is because if we look over here on our pig player class, die is a private variable. We don't have access to it. However, we do have a getter for it. There's our getter for our die value. So in here I'm going to call my getter dot get die value. There it is. Close parentheses, semicolon. Okay, that is the end of my if statement. The next thing I want to do is I want to allow the user to keep doing this until either they've rolled a 1, meaning they've lost their turn, or they choose, what is it, pass, P for pass. Okay, and the code I want repeated is this code over and over again. So just so we can see it, I'm going to tab this over. I'm going to put a comment here that this is my end if. This one right here is my end player move. Keep going, there's your end class. So this is the code I want to repeat. Which loop are we going to use? Look, we're reviewing loops too. I love this. Okay, do we know the number of times it's going to take? No, so it can't be a for loop. It's either a test at the top or a test at the bottom. Do we want to ask them to roll or stay first, or do we have some sort of condition that's going to prevent them from rolling or staying on the first roll? No, we want them to roll or stay. So we got to have it repeat at least one time. So I'm going to do a do loop. What is my condition? Well, I have two conditions this time. I have if they roll a 1 or if they choose to quit. So I've got to put both of those in here. So if they choose to quit is my variable is called choice. If choice equals ignore case, if choice is equal to an R, and I'm saying an R because if they choose to roll, we will continue this loop. All right? It's not, we don't put your pass here, because this condition is what is the condition we want them to continue playing, and that is if they choose to roll. Since we have an equals ignore case, it doesn't matter if we put a lowercase r or an uppercase R, it will work both ways. Okay, I have a secondary condition. I also need to make sure the player rolled something higher than a 1. That's when I want it to repeat. If they roll a 1, then that means they are done and they can't play this anymore. Okay, as soon as they are done rolling, we're going to allow them to pass, and that updates their score. If you remember on our roll, if they roll a 1, our round score gets set to 0 anyway. So even if they roll a 1, it's just adding 0 to their score. Okay, this move method is now done. All I have to do is go back to our main and code them playing. All right, so here's where my little comment where they're playing the game. I'm going to say do, and I keep wanting them to repeat so long as I think the original game is their score, anyone above 100 works, but let's make this small. So long as player1.getScore is less than 50 and player2.getScore is less than 50. If you want to make that 100, by all means, go ahead. So we're going to keep playing so long as one of their scores is below 50. If one of their scores gets above 50, it's going to drop out of this loop because you'll have a true and a false statement, which will evaluate to false. Okay, super simple. Last 2 lines of code, then we're done. Okay, all we have to do is call the method for player move. So I'm going to say player move, and I'm going to send it player1, and it's going to run all of this code for player1. Now I'm going to do it again. Player move for player 2. That's it. I'm done. Look how simple that is. Keep moving until your score gets above 100. Okay, there is a logic error on this. Suppose player 1 actually wins the game. It will still go through player 2's score. So if we want to avoid that from happening, you can say if player 1 dot get score is greater than 50, then break out of the loop. There it is. Okay, and that is pretty much it to our pig game. Let's compile this, make sure you don't have any errors. Let's run it and try and play pig. Okay, player 1, enter your name. My name's Kim. Player 2, you guys. Uses. Okay, do I choose to roll or stay? Roll. I got a 5. I'm going to roll again. I got 6. My round score is 11. I'm going to roll again. 15. I'm on a roll. 18. Oh, 21. I'm going to stay. It's getting a little higher. Okay, your turn. What do you want to do? Roll, of course. Roll, roll. Oh, you rolled a 1. See, look I'm just lucky, I guess. Anyway, this will keep repeating until my dice value is higher than 50, or your dice value or your round score is higher than 50. This is a working game of pig. Well, I hope you have gotten some good object-oriented knowledge. Stay tuned, because in class we're going to have you with a friend code your first object on your own. We will see you there.